Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our weekly Penn State football press conference with head coach James Franklin. We'll start with an opening statement from coach and then open it up to questions. Mark Brennan, you will be first on deck.
Like always, appreciate everybody being on to cover Penn State football. Hope everybody is well. Reviewing the Ohio State game, briefly. First of all, you got to give them credit. Obviously, a very talented team, and they played well. Offensively, I think biggest factor in the game was we were not able to get the running game going, which made us predictable. And the last thing you want to do is be predictable against a talented opponent like that. And we weren't able to control the line of scrimmage. Similar on defense. We weren't able to get them off schedule. They were comfortable all day long in terms of being able to mix the run and the pass and have success at both and fall forward on tackles. So they just stayed in manageable situations the entire game. So that really hasn't been how we've played them. Although we were able to keep it for most of the game a two-score game. We had been able to have a little bit more success on defense. We were able to make some plays in the passing game, but not in the running game. So that's been obviously the emphasis in our corrections on Sunday. So getting into Maryland, obviously we have a confident team coming in. They had a big win last week in an overtime win against the University of Maryland on a missed extra point to win the game. The quarterback played extremely well. You look at it's really it was two different games. You break the Northwestern game down, and they started out and did some pretty good things, and then Northwestern really was able to get turnovers and really controlled the game. And then you look at the Minnesota game. They started out strong. Maryland offensively, I think, went up 14-0. Then Minnesota was able to get going offensively and defensively, and was able to take control of the game. And then Maryland was kind of caught on fire specifically in the pass game. Was able to mix the run in. The quarterback played extremely well. They're talented at wide receiver. And made some big plays and found a way, I think, to battle back from 14 or 21 points to tie the game up, send it to overtime, and then obviously win in overtime with the missed extra point. So talented team coming in, specifically on the perimeter. Obviously, I know this university and this program well. Spent a number of years there. I think 8 years there. Have a lot of memories there, a lot of respect for that area, for that community, for that university, and looking forward to the opportunity to get out and play. We did have, obviously, a change in schedule this week, and I was very proud of how the staff and how the players handled that. We're very routine-oriented, and after playing a physical, tough game like that, and then had practice on Sunday, and then Monday's usually our off day, and we practiced on Monday and practiced well. I was concerned about getting enough of the game plan done to allow us to have an effective practice on Monday, and also the guys fighting through the bumps and bruises and soreness from the game. That's usually why Monday's a recovery day for us. I thought the coaches did a great job. It made for a late Sunday and an early Monday to get all those things done and prepared. But I thought we had a excellent practice on Monday. Now today's our off day. We'll clean some things up, finish the game plan up, and then get back with the guys tomorrow on Wednesday for a good practice. So open up the questions, and again, appreciate everybody being here.
First question will go to Mark Brennan, Lions 247 with Fight on State. Rich Scarcelli, you're on deck.
Mark?
You unmute him? Mark?
It shows that he's unmuted. Mark? Mark, can you hear me? Mark, Yeah, we can't hear you, Mark.
Yeah. Well, Mark, we'll come back to you. We will move on to Rich Scarcella.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Hey, Rich.
You again mentioned the line of scrimmage. Did your problems stem from physical or mental issues regarding mental mistakes or physical mistakes?
Well, I think first of all, Ohio State is obviously very talented. You got to give them credit. I think it starts with that. There was a number of plays where we actually, when you watch the tape, we actually had things blocked well and had a running lane, and a guy would rush up the field, stick his foot in the ground, and retrace us and tackle us in the hole for a yard, or two gain. But I do think there's some aspects of a little bit different philosophy, a little bit different offense, not as much confidence early on that you're usually able to work through early in the season. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of mental, it's a little bit of physical. But again, I know, nobody wants to hear that. We got to get it done, and I'm confident in what we're going to be able to do this week. But I think it's a combination of those factors, Rich.
We're going to go back to Mark Brennan. Ben Jones, you're on deck.
You got me now, James?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. I noticed that Keandre is listed as a starter now. Can you tell us kind of how he got to that level, what he brings to the table, and what you thought of the development of your wideout in that Ohio State game? Thank you.
Yeah, so appreciate it. We made some of those changes. I think you guys know Cam Sullivan-Brown's a guy we were really excited about, and he had some things going on that wasn't going to allow him to play the way he wants to play, and that we know that he's capable of playing. So he's available, but Keandre, is the guy that we saw do some really good things during camp, but was still a true freshman, and kind of wanted him to come along with Cam. And between Cam's circumstances and Keandre's, it's kind of how it played out. So we wanted to document that for you guys as much as we possibly could. But feel good about both those guys. We do think Keandre's got a very bright future. He's got tremendous quickness and ball skills. He's an emotional guy. He's a passionate guy. We got to get him to be able to move on to the next play and keep his composure and poise. But he cares a lot, and he's extremely passionate about playing and playing well. And we see that with Parker as well. Those two guys are very close and have trained well. And came in, with a very mature approach. And obviously Jahan did some really good things on Saturday. So we want to build on that. We think, Parker's got a chance to take another step this week. We think Keandre, and a combination of Keandre and Cam Sullivan-Brown, we're excited about that. We do have TJ Jones available, for us this week, and that's exciting too, because he's a guy, that we were pretty excited about, during training camp. And then obviously Daniel George has played some football for us as well. So we feel like we're getting back to a group of guys that can play and contribute, and we had some circumstances that limited some of their opportunities.
Ben Jones, Parthopadya, you're on deck.
Hey, James.
Hey, Ben.
Most teams are their best in week one, regardless of who they're playing.
Could you start over, Ben? It was kind of cutting out there.
Oh, sorry. Most teams don't look great in week one. Ohio State makes teams not look their best against anybody. And when you evaluate the things you want to get better at, how much do you balance the alarm bells that go off in your head with just the circumstance of it and who you're playing?
Some of it's breaking up. I think it's about playing well in week one and other people.
Yeah, how do you balance what you need to change, or how do you need to get better with how you played week one and who you're playing against?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair question. I think you have to take both things into consideration, Ben. I think you got to say, okay, clearly these are areas that we need to get better. I think week one it was pretty obvious, what the things were to get better. And you turn the ball over like that, and you have penalties like that, you're going to make things challenging. Week two, obviously, the opponent also played a factor in that. So I think you're balancing the two things, Ben. I think you sit there and you say to yourself, okay, these are things that we clearly have to get better at, from the details, from the fundamentals, from situational football and understanding kind of where we're at and why. And then, okay, here's the opponent that factored into this as well. And I think your point is a good one, Ben. You look across the country, this is kind of an unusual year for a lot of different reasons. But at the end of the day, this is the situation that we're in. These are the circumstances, and we got to embrace it and make the best of it. But I do think your point is a good one, Ben. You got to look at the complete picture. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be critical of yourself. You got to identify the areas that you can get better and should get better, and fix those things. And some things are short fixes that you can do immediately, and some are long-term things that you're going to have to approach as well. So for me, Ben, as much as I possibly can, I'm always trying to look at it from both lenses, from a short-term issues that we need to get resolved, and also the big picture and how the whole puzzle fits together.
Parth Upadhyay, Center Daily Times, and Corey Geiger, you're on deck.
Hey, Coach. Appreciate the time this afternoon. Thank you.
You too, Parth.
I know, obviously, starting 0-2 at Penn State is unfamiliar territory for you, unfamiliar territory for your players. How have you seen your veteran leaders kind of handle that adversity? And what have they done to kind of make sure the team morale is still staying up in terms of trying to get back on track this week?
Whoever's handling this sound, I'm having a hard time hearing it clearly. It's
him. It's Parth's internet.
okay. Parth, one more time, but if you could speak as loud as you can. I'm having a hard time picking up all the words when you guys speak.
Yeah, I was just saying that I know, obviously, at Penn State, it's unfamiliar territory to go 0-2 to start the season. Last year, y'all won 8 straight, and since you've been here, I think y'all won at least 4 straight to start the year. How have your players kind of handled that? And specifically your veteran leaders, how have they kind of helped keep that team morale up when trying to get back on track this week?
Yep, I got you better there. If all of you guys could just speak a little bit louder, that helps. I guess that the first thing I would say, Parth, is I don't know if it's necessarily accurate to compare apples to apples. Typically we're playing a combination of non-conference and conference games. This is a very unusual year, so it's hard to make comparisons because it's just different. But I do understand your point. I don't think I've ever been in this position as a head coach. But our guys have handled it well. For us, we try to correct the problems and not criticize the individual. It's never an attack on an individual. And that's myself, that's the staff, that's the players, that's all of us. Okay, here are the things that we have to get fixed. These are the things that we know that lead to winning. And these are the things that we know that lead to a lack of success. And before you start doing the things and emphasizing the things about winning, you got to eliminate the things that lead towards things that are not successful. You got to eliminate those things. That's what I think week one was. Week two was obviously a different conversation, but I think our guys have taken a very mature approach, obviously disappointed and frustrated and not where we want to be or where we think we should be. But again, there's a fine line to that because you also got to move forward, and I thought in the locker room Saturday night, I've learned over my, I guess it's 10 years now as a head coach. The last thing you want to do is after a loss is start making corrections in the locker room. It's just too raw at that moment. You tell them you love them. You tell them you appreciate them, that we're all in this thing together and we got to stick together during challenging times. And and that on Sunday, we need to make these corrections. And for a lot of us as coaches, it even starts Saturday night. But I thought a couple guys stepped up in the locker room that night and said some really good things to the team. And then, again, I thought on Sunday in meetings and out on practice that our body language and demeanor and our lack of defensiveness, all of us, I thought was really good, and that led to us to having a good practice on Sunday, and then I thought a good practice yesterday. And I think that's the challenge, is in college football, every season, every game is so meaningful. And in some ways where I think the college football playoff, I think has made college football even more exciting, but it's also, I think, created some challenges. It's very all or nothing with the college football playoff now. I think for the most part, our guys have handled adversity well.
Corey Geiger, Nittany Sports Now. Neil Rudell, you're on deck.
Hi, James.
Hi, Corey.
Wearing my voted sticker. Why has voting been such an important aspect for you, for the football program, and today being the Civic Engagement Day? How do you feel about the message that it sends for college athletes to be able to take today off?
Yeah. Well, I think a couple things. I think, first of all, that we all have a duty and a responsibility to be active in what's going on in our democracy and in our country. It's a right that we have fought for. It's a right that we have earned. It's something that some people and some countries would love to have. And I think, maybe for a period of time that we took some of those rights for granted. And I also think there's probably an aspect where there's a lot of people that have had opinions on what should be going on in our country, but really had not used their voice. So I think there's been a lot of emphasis over the last couple of years, and specifically this past year, to say, okay, if you want to have a voice, if you want to have opinions, it starts with going and getting involved and taking advantage of your rights. So that's something that I think you've seen in professional sports, and it trickled down to college sports as well. And then when the NCAA and the Big Ten and a lot of these conferences made some decisions like making this an off day, from competition and practice, then I think it magnified it even more, and it led to great discussions and dialogue. And obviously, some of the challenges, that are going on in our country and in our world, probably magnified it as well. So, for us, we wanted to educate our guys. We wanted to create opportunities for them to be engaged. And then, I'm pretty confident that, most of our staff and most of our team went out and voted this morning. I was fortunate to get there early and be able to get in and out before it got busy when I left after voting. It was packed, so I was glad I got there early. I voted over at Good Shepherd Church over there by Grayswood Elementary School, where my daughters went to elementary school. And we got there, I think I was fourth or fifth in line, and then but by the time I left, I was happy I got there early. So, but our guys, I think have been very active, and I'm proud of them, and I'm proud of the approach that the Big Ten has taken with this as well.
Neil Rudell, Altoona Mirror. Donnie Collins, you're on deck.
Neil, I think you muted yourself.
Thank you. How about now? I'm sure there's a punchline for somebody there. Hey, do you feel 35 times in 2 weeks Sean has carried, were some of that Ohio State rush, or are you trying to get away from running him quite that much?
Yeah, we went into Ohio State specifically with the understanding that we were going to have to be aggressive in that game. and run the quarterback. We knew that's a thing that has given them issues and challenges in the past, so it was a big part of our game plan. There are going to be weeks that we do that, and there are going to be weeks that we try to limit that. But that was definitely a approach and a plan going into that game for sure.
Donnie Collins, Scranton Times-Tribune. Audrey Snyder, you're on deck.
Hi, James.
Hey, Donnie.
I wondered, did you consider you giving some carries to Holmes and Lee last week? I'm assuming the situation, the score had something to do with that. But how much do you think you're going to lead them going forward? And how much do you weigh in a situation where, where the game was going like it is? Do you put someone untested in?
Yeah, I think Holmes and Lee are going to have to be a big part of what we do moving forward. We were able, we were forced into a situation in week 1 to do it. I thought last week they kind of showed to us that they were ready for the moment in terms of just kind of their demeanor and how they approached things and how they were with Coach Sider on the sideline and the times that, they were able to get in. But yeah, they're going to have to have a bigger role and Devin, we're excited about Devin and what Devin's going to be able to do this week and moving forward. But we need those complementary pieces. We can't just, ride Devin all year long.
Audrey Snyder, The Athletic. Thomas Frank Carr, you're on deck.
James, how would you evaluate the play of your safeties through these first 2 games?
I'm sorry, how would you evaluate the what?
The safeties.
Yeah, Lamont and Brisker, and you got Sutherland, who's played as well, and then we've gotten Jair probably more reps than we probably anticipated. He's coming along and coming along quickly. Obviously when you go back and you watch that tape and you talk to Coach Banks and you talk about the production that we've had at the safety position, not just at that position, but really across the board. At every position, I think we're capable of playing at a higher level. Lamont's played a lot of football for us. At this point, Brisker's played a lot of football for us, and so has Sutherland. So I know they have very, very high expectations, and their coaches do as well. And I think you're going to see those guys play extremely well for the remainder of the season. And, we feel like those guys got a lot of ability. So we're expecting big things of them this week against Maryland and for the remainder of the season.
T. Frank Carr, ESPN Radio 1450. New Bias, you're on deck.
Hey, James. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. If you have a team that you're facing and they have a quarterback who's determined to get the ball out quickly, how do you combat that as a defense and give your defensive line, which historically has been very good, a chance to do what they do?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think if you're playing Penn State, typically the plan is to get the ball out of your hands quickly, spread the ball around. And we've seen people in the past, have some success and be able to run like a ball control offense. So I think, some of the things that we can do from a coverage perspective, where you're not providing as much access, which is going to force quarterbacks to move on to the second progression or not throw timing routes, is going to force the quarterback to hold on to the ball. Obviously, being able to be, good against the run, which is something we've been pretty good about in the last 6 years, to force people into second and longs or third and longs where they do have to push the ball down the field a little bit further and hold on to the ball a little bit longer, then that's when you have a chance to be successful. But if you allow people to stay on schedule and throw the ball on time and get the ball out to free access or to first progressions, then you're going to have a hard time, getting pressure on the quarterback the way we want to. I think the other thing you have to do, especially when you're playing a quarterback that maybe is under 6 foot, is when you're not able to get to the quarterback, are you able to get your hands up and knock some of those balls down? We have not done a whole lot of that over our 6 years here. I think that's an area that we can be better at. Those batted down balls in the passing game are big-time plays too.
New Bias Wilborn, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Joe Giuliano, you're on deck.
James, assuming everything goes right, this will be, at least since you've been a Big Ten coach, the first season where you'll compete against two African-American head coaches in the same season. What does that mean to you specifically with Coach Loxley? What does it mean matching up with him, considering everything that's been going on?
Yeah, so, obviously, me and Locks have known each other for a long time. We were on the staff together, at the University of Maryland. We've competed against each other for a number of years. But I do think it's great to see in our conference, more diversity. And I think that's in the head coaching positions. I think that's in coordinator positions. I think that is in, staffs. I think that's important. And I think the Big Ten, in some ways, is leading the way, nationally. So, for me, when it comes down to it, it's about the game, and it's about finding a way to be successful against the University of Maryland. But I do take a lot of pride in our conference and what our conference is doing, and some of the decisions that our presidents in our conference, as well as athletic directors in our conference, are making, which is hire the most qualified person available. And it's great to see that, obviously, with Coach Tucker as well and Lovey. It's something that I think we take a lot of pride in. But again, during the season, you're just trying to get wins and represent your university the right way. But I do think those individual universities, as well as our conference as a whole, I think it's something that the conference should be getting credit for.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer. Bob Flounders, Penn Live, you're on deck.
Hello, James.
Hey, Joe.
I wondered what your impressions were of the Maryland quarterback, Tonga Viola. He had not a good first week, but a great second week. And I wondered if you had seen enough of his brother, Tua, to make any comparisons.
Yeah, I thought he played extremely well in week 2, and they have a talented group of wide receivers around him as well, which helps. But I thought he played extremely well. You watch that Minnesota game, it's hard not to be impressed. You look at the completion percentage, you look at the decision making, you look at his ability to make plays with his feet, as well as extend plays in the pocket. It was impressive, and for them to start out strong and then rally at the end to send it to overtime and then make the plays that they were able to make. We got a hot quarterback coming in here, and whenever you got a hot quarterback in college football or the NFL, you got a chance. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge. In terms of comparisons with Tua, we didn't play against them in college, and I don't really have the time to watch the NFL right now. But obviously, I got tremendous respect for their family. The times I have been able to watch Tua and the times that I have watched his interviews and how he's gone about his business and how he's been unbelievably respectful to his coaches and the community and his opportunities and his family, and they're a family of strong faith as well. I've just been impressed with the family, and got a lot of respect for them and how they've gone about their whole process. So I think it's good for college football, but we got an opportunity to play the little brother, and he did a bunch of great things on Saturday. And in some ways, although I think he's done a great job of embracing it, I also think it's tough. It's tough to be the little brother of a big brother that's had such a prolific college and start of an NFL career. We had a similar situation at Vanderbilt when I was the head coach there with Jordan Rodgers. So it can be tough, it can be challenging, but I think he's done a good job of embracing it.
Looks like Bob's not on, so we'll go to Greg Pickle, Penn Live, and John Petishnock, you're on deck.
Hey, Coach, how would you assess your special teams from week 1 to week 2?
Obviously in week 1, we did not play up to our standard, and did not play our formula, really in all three phases. And I think in week 2, we did our jobs. We didn't really make any plays to swing the game in our momentum, but we did our jobs. We kicked the ball much better on kickoffs, on field goals, and on punts. And we covered well, and we protected the ball and didn't have any penalties. So I think it was a step in the right direction, but I also think we can make some plays, which is the next step.
John Petishnock, the football letter. Gabe Angieri, you're on deck.
Hey, good afternoon, James. Thanks for your time today.
You too, John.
Hey, wanted to ask about the players' families who are such a huge support system. Considering that some or maybe most of the families can't travel to campus or attend games, how have you been communicating with the families, and how important will communication with them be throughout the season?
Did you say that the families can or can't when you asked the question?
I mean, it's my understanding that most of them can't, just based on where they're living in the country, or maybe more of them can travel than what I'm aware of. But just considering that the families are such a huge support system for the players, and some of them might not have that this year, like in person, just how much have you been communicating with the families, and how important is that?
Yeah, in season, there had not been a whole lot of communication from me. My staff communicates in terms of keeping them informed of what's going on. In preseason, we met a lot. I probably had, between 8 and 10 parent meetings, keeping them informed with what was going on. So I think very early on, everybody was aware, the players and the parents, that at one point we weren't going to have any. We weren't going to have any parents at games, and then that got open from a Big Ten perspective, and also from a state perspective. The state of Pennsylvania allowed us to do those things. But yeah, it's very different, and we run a family program. Our parents are typically at Friday practice. They're, obviously at the games. We usually have parent tailgates. They're a huge part of it, and we try to keep them as involved as we possibly can, and not only for our players but also for the coaches. I usually, would go out there before the game and see the parents and get some hugs and support from them as well, and that's how we run our program. And I know a lot of programs aren't like that, but I do think the fact that we were aware of this before the season started helped, but it's still challenging, and it's still problematic. But again, this is what 2020 offers. This is what 2020 brings, and we need to embrace it.
Gabe Angieri, Onward State. Tyler Donahue, you're on deck.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good, Gabe. How are you?
Good, thanks. How would you assess the play of your linebackers so far, and what suggestion would you have?
If you guys could speak as loud as you possibly can, because it's breaking up, and I keep getting words cut out. So as loud as you guys can be would be helpful.
How would you assess the play of your linebackers so far this season, and what did you see from Jesse Luketa in the second half of Ohio State?
Yeah, I think it's hard because we've had multiple linebackers out, and when you have Jesse, who we think had been playing at a really high level, and to have him out for the second half of game 1 and the first half of game 2, it had an impact. There's no doubt about it. But I think Ellis has done some good things. We're excited about Brandon. I thought Brandon took a big step in game 2. And then obviously Lance Dixon was able to take on a more significant role last week, and we couldn't be more excited about him and his future. It was great to get Charlie Catcher back. Charlie Catcher had been limited at the end of training camp, so it was great to have him back. And then obviously, we got the young guy as well, who we're excited about and expecting big things from him. And Curtis Jacobs is playing on special teams and playing a little bit on defense as well. So having Jesse back, I think, is important. so we can have those 3 starters in there as much as we can, and then be able to rotate those other guys when needed, either by those guys tapping based on drives, or just our rotation that we talk about and work on all week long, and how we're going to get those other guys in opportunities, and how many series a half.
Last 2 questions. First one to Tyler Donahue and Peter Terpstra. You're on deck.
James, good afternoon.
Hey, Tyler.
Staying on defense, at that slot coverage, Lamont Wade's been the guy. We anticipated he'd be the guy for you at that star role. Do you kind of take a look at other players over the course of the practice period, and do you assess maybe utilizing others? We heard Peyton Ellis is mentioned by Terry Smith at the star role at some point this offseason, not too long ago. Haven't seen much of him. What are your thoughts on covering the slot? Obviously, both had a big performance against you guys on Saturday.
Yeah, so again, we're going to have to find a way to work on this a little bit, because I'm having a hard time hearing you guys clearly. But I think your question was about the star position and Lamont Wade, as well as other guys at that position. Is that correct? If you could nod your head. Now he's muted. I can't hear him. So.
Yes, and I specifically mentioned Keaton Ellis. That's the guy that Terry Smith had mentioned, maybe contributing in that role. We haven't seen much of him for these 2 weeks.
Yeah, Keaton wasn't available last week. As you guys know, I don't get into those things a whole lot. We're hopeful to get him back sooner rather than later. And as you know, he's played a lot of football for us already as a true freshman. So we'd love to get him back. Hardy's a guy who's played some reps and done some good things. We need to keep bringing him along, but Lamont is the guy in that role right now, and hopefully, again, as Hardy gains experience, he'll gain confidence and production in there too.
Peter Terpstra, WTAJ.
Hey, Coach. When it comes to having 2 losses on the season, historically, I guess that I don't know if a team with 2 losses has made the playoff or not. With your seniors on your team, what have you seen from them since the loss to Ohio State, and how have they kind of pushed a message of finishing strong from here on out?
Yeah, Peter, you came through perfectly clear. I don't know if your internet's different than everybody else's or what, but it sounded great, so I appreciate it. Yeah, for us, we don't really talk like that anyway. I think the people that have covered us for a number of years, we just want to be 1-0, and we want an opportunity to win this week and play well this week, and do that week by week and day by day. So that's always our message. That's always our mantra. It's served us well over the last 6 years. I know there's frustration this year. I get it. Trust me, there's nobody, more frustrated than the players in our locker room and our staff. But that's been an approach that's served us well, and we'll continue to invest in it.
Thank you very much, Coach. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow for Coach's press conference after practice.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.